Hello everyone and welcome to the next episode of Solar Sidekicks. My name is Pat Southwell and I'm your host. First of all, like normal, we'll do an acknowledgement of the traditional custodians of the land. That's the Turrbal tribe. And it's not the normal place where we're doing the recording. So we're still doing this for Radio Carrum, except we are up here in Eagle Farm in Queensland, just north of Brisbane. And today's episode will be coming to you from MC Electrical headquarters. So I am here with Mark Cavanagh. So how you going there, Mark?
Yeah, good, Pat. It is Brisbane, but north side of Brisbane. Yeah, just north of the river. So.
Just north of the river, yeah.
Yes.
So we're still, I know a lot of this audience will be in and around the Melbourne area and especially around Carrum. But yeah, today we're remote. I'm up here for the Solar and Storage Live Expo. What was it called? Now I can't remember.
Solar and Storage Live.
That's it. Solar and Storage Live, which was at the Brisbane Convention Centre. And I've been up here for the last 2 days. And first of all, welcome to the podcast, Mark. Thanks for being on Solar Sidekicks and thanks for hosting us here at MC Electrical.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. I've been watching your episodes, your first, whatever it is, 3 or 4.
Yeah, this is episode 5 now. We're up to.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, actually, I haven't seen 4 yet. I think it hasn't come out on YouTube. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. So if anyone else has seen us on the socials, you can like us on YouTube. You can give us a review on Spotify, or you can like us on Facebook as well. So, what do you think so far, Mark, of the conference? You've been up and you had a bit of a look around the last couple of days or yesterday. What did you think?
Yeah, no, it was good. I was pretty busy, so I didn't spend the whole time there as much as I would have liked to. So, compared to the 2 conferences, CEC and Smart Energy,
yeah,
smaller, but not crazy smaller.
No.
Like it wasn't some typical little country Brisbane sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I found it was a similar size to Smart Energy in Sydney, roughly.
I didn't go last year to Smart Energy.
Yeah, it's a similar size, and I feel like it's a similar vibe as well.
But heaps of people, right?
Heaps of people. Yeah, there was a lot of people, a lot of foot traffic. It was good. It's sort of all energy. It's sort of hard to get around to everything in your 2 days.
Yeah,
such a massive event down in Melbourne. So I feel like it's a little bit more intimate, these smaller type events. You can get around and actually talk to people and catch up with some people that you haven't seen for a while. And, we're all pretty good at that, doing that in the solar industry.
Yeah. No, it is good. It was good for me not to have to fly to Melbourne.
Yeah.
Instead, just drive 15 minutes in the city or catch an Uber in there or whatever it is, And so bring it back, I reckon. So we want more of this.
Yeah. So, it looks like they've booked one in for next year. I think it's going to be in late March. So the timing's a little bit different.
I learned that on your other podcast.
Perfect. Yeah, so hopefully, I mean, I think it's been quite good. It's been good to see everyone again. There's some of the sessions have been quite good and quite informative.
Yeah.
I took a roving mic around a couple of times, which we'll cut to some of that later. So I've spoken to a few people at the conference, and that's one of the things that people have been mentioning with the sessions. They've got like the silent disco type headsets on, and there's no audible sound coming from the microphones.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was something a little bit different, and it meant that the sessions, there was like 2 or 3 streams that were sort of all sitting next to each other.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different to what we're used to, but it was good. It was good. Good to do things a little bit differently.
Yeah, no.
For sure.
It was a good conference for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So Mark, let's have a little bit of chat about you and MC Electrical. So a lot of people, like I've known Mark for a long time now, over 10 years, I think.
I meant to work that out with you beforehand. Yeah. It's well over 10 years.
Well, I worked it out. We'll get to that in a minute.
Okay,
I've worked out when we first met, I'm pretty sure. So I've known you in the industry for a long time. A lot of people out, like the audience who are going to be watching and listening to this are going to be from Melbourne or Victoria. I know we're starting to branch out a little bit to interstate, but a lot of other people wouldn't know who you are. So you started an electrical contracting business in the northern suburbs of Brisbane. Is this where you started, in Eagle Farm?
Yeah. Well, no. So we started underneath our house at Banyo.
Yeah, right. Where's that? How far away is that?
It's just 15 minutes north of here.
Yeah.
So, and then moved to another underneath our house. So, we started a 3rd bedroom, then got another house, started under the house, then just kept on expanding. But our first office was in this complex.
Yeah, okay.
So, it's all been around this area. and started up electrical contracting, yes, but for the purpose of solar. So.
Yeah, right. So you started. I think you got your solar ticket around the same time as me. So 2009, is that right?
2009, yeah.
Yeah. So I've actually done my research on you. I've listened to a few other podcasts you've done, and we've been mates for years as well. Right, so yeah. I sort of know this stuff. So 2009, and you started. Like a lot of solar installers did you start doing subcontracting work? Is that how you sort of started things? Yeah. So how'd you find that? Because you don't do any subcontract work now. You sell systems and you install them. You got teams doing it. How did you find that compared to selling systems?
Like you have to cut your teeth on something, right? So I was young. I had no idea. This is right at the beginning of solar. No one had any idea about solar, right?
Sure.
And so that was the only way we knew how to get into it.
Yeah.
And did that for a couple of years. We scaled really quickly, far too quickly for what I was.
Why do you say that? Far too quick? Just because
quality control.
Oh, really? Is that right?
Yeah, like I had 6 teams running around, and actually I think we got up to 8 for a very short period. But sort of 6 was standard for quite a while.
And when was that? When was that period of time? So you started 2009, and then when did you get to sort of 6 to 8? When were you around that number?
Probably end of 2009.
Or
maybe 2010, I'd say.
Yeah, okay. It's quite quick.
So really quickly.
That is really quick.
Yeah. So it started off me on the tools with, one of my guys that's still here working for me, one of my Sparkies.
Yep.
Me up on the roof, lifting the panels and working out the back of our ute, putting the 6 panels on, but the 160 watt panels would be fine in the back of the old ute.
Yeah. You probably wouldn't have even strapped them in, would you? You just let them sit in there and slide around.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, like we tried our best, but it was hard because the solar industry was just
we didn't know what we didn't know, right? Like there's so many things we've learned along the journey.
It's funny when you see guys on Facebook or whatever it is, bag out on installs that happened back then.
Oh yeah, I know.
And it's like there was no solar cable. Yeah. I mean, some people used this 2 separate SDI solar cables.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But we were just chucking 1.5, maybe 2.5 through the roof. No, it's probably 2.5. So,
It was supposed to be 4, wasn't it? I think it was supposed to be 4.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know. Who knew? So, no one knew. So.
No, that's right. Yeah, it was a different time. There's no doubt about it. It's much more heavily regulated now, and the quality control which you're forced to sort of do in the industry is much better than it used to be back then. Yeah, so you reasonably quickly got off doing subcontracting, started selling your own systems. So you made that transition, and how'd you go with that? Getting sales teams and those sort of things.
That was hard. So that first year was really hard. We had made money in subbing, and so it wasn't terrible that we made no money that one year. So it was okay, and we'd bought some vehicles and stuff like that. So but it was really hard because I had no idea how to sell. I tried going out and selling myself, and I'm far too technical to sell. I don't care about people. I care about things. Sure. So I was terrible at it. Finally, actually, we poached Nicole, who still works for us.
Yep.
I'd asked her a few times, come and teach us how to sell. Because she was a salesperson for the people that we were installing for from the beginning. So I've known her since 2009 or something as well. And finally she came over, and I knew we could just do it better than anyone.
Yep.
Like all these, especially back then, it was just everyone was a sales company. They weren't run by electricians. They had no idea what they're doing. They're asking me, and I had no idea as well what we were doing back then. So it was all just really low quality, and I'd worked stuff out by then, and then I thought we can do this so much better, and so much we can do it ethically, and we can make money. We don't have to rip people off.
That's great. It's great to hear that story, that you can in the solar industry be ethical, make money, and do the right thing by your customer. You don't just have to race to this bottom number, which everyone I don't know what the bottom number is, but it's just a really good story to be able to hear that, because you hear so many installation companies say they're struggling with that race to the bottom dollar. So it's good to hear that you've been able to have a sustainable business for 15 years now, and you haven't been trying to get that cheapest system which is out there. So
and that's what gets you in the end, I think, is going that cheapest system. If you're going to honour your warranties, that just ruins the business. When you've got this massive warranty liability of cheap garbage that you put in. So that's what I think we didn't do that well straight off, but as far as inverters go and things like that, but or panels. So we've had issues from the early days of selling our own systems. But after that we kind of quickly cottoned on that not just the balance of system, how we install the system so it's going to last, at least the 10-year install warranty, but the products as well, so that, of course you're going to get failures, but as long as you're not going to get 30 or 50% failures.
Yeah, for sure. That's right. So you mentioned the balance system. Where do you feel like that sits in the scheme of things? Like, I've always sort of said you could have like the cheapest equipment installed really, really well, and you can have great equipment installed really cheaply. Now, for me, my preference has always been the better the install, obviously, the better. I feel like that makes the best experience for the customer. So do you have a lot of focus on your balance of system sort of side of things?
Yeah, massively on our balance of system. And I think that's one of those hidden things.
It's not regulated, right? Like you can just go out and buy an isolator sort of anywhere or cable sort of anywhere. And it's not really regular. There's no product listing for any of those balance of system items.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it screws. And are you going to put a Gale saddle in it or a zinc saddle?
Exactly.
No one uses a Gale saddle. Well, we do. We don't use zinc saddles outside.
Sure.
Things like that. Gale screws.
Yeah.
Rather than zinc screws and stainless contentery wire. I should have shown you downstairs when you come up, Pat. We've got a panel that hinges out and we show how we do our cable management and
right.
And the gear that we use that costs a little bit more, but it's worth it because it doesn't cause me issues in the next 10 years, So
that's good. Yeah, well, that's good. That's good to hear. I'll be interested to see that. Well, let's just go back a little bit. So I'll just talk about the first time I met you, from what I remember. So from what I remember, I'm pretty sure it was 2013, and it was I think it would have been Atra dinner back then.
Yes,
we went.
2013, you reckon it was? Yeah.
2013. Yeah. We actually sat next to each other at that dinner.
Yeah.
And I introduced myself as the whatever I was, national installation manager or something at True Value Solar, and you looked at me going, "Oh, okay, who's this guy?"
True Value Solar, who were calling me every second day at that stage. You want to do installs for us?
Yeah, they would have been.
Off,
of course, yeah, they would have been. Oh, they would have been hot on your tail for sure. So I remember making a connection with you then, and then we just sort of kept in contact. And anytime I was up here, I'd try and catch up with you, or anytime you're in Melbourne, we'd always try and catch up at conferences and that sort of thing. And then we had a bit to do with each other at the CEC. So you were on the installer reference group. That was probably the next time we sort of worked together a bit.
Yeah.
So I was the chair of that, and Mark, you were one of the representatives from Queensland on that.
Yeah. So that was a good group, I thought. It was good times while it lasted.
Yeah, I know. Bit of a shame how that's sort of all gone, but yeah, it was good. I feel like that group, our hands got tired a little bit sometimes. Like, everyone really, really wanted to make a difference in what they could do. And at the end of the day, it ended up being just a bit of a consultation sort of group where I think we made a couple of decisions on a few things, but nothing that really made a huge difference to the industry.
Yeah. After you left, it was worse than that. So
was it really? Yeah.
It got pretty frustrating towards the end, and then they just
you stayed on, did you? Once I left the CC, did you? Yeah. Right. Okay.
So,
yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a good group. And I think, did you go to the meeting that we had? We had a meeting in Melbourne where we were all face to face. Were you at that one? Oh, you might have.
No, I missed that one. Yeah.
That was like one of the best installer reference group meetings that we ever had, and everyone was saying, "Oh, this is so good, being face to face, and actually, you can actually get a lot more done." But anyway, I won't digress too much. But that was that's been a lot of my main interaction with you, and then now we've still running into each other at conferences, and you are doing well. I suppose you've got your own YouTube channel, and you do a fair bit of stuff on the web as well.
Yeah. The blog slowed down a little bit.
Yeah. So what is it? You do blogs, YouTube as well? What else?
Yeah. So I started off doing blogs quite a few years ago. And then over COVID, got myself a green screen at home and sat out on the veranda and started doing YouTubes. And then ended up, liking doing YouTubes better than blogging. Yeah. So we still sort of translate the video into a blog. Like if I do a lot of research, we'll translate that into a blog.
Yep.
At some points too, but I kind of really like doing the YouTube. I think that's where the audience has generally shifted to. Yep. Towards YouTube. I know I spend a lot of time on YouTube myself.
Yeah, so, sure. So give your channel a little bit of a plug. How do we find you on YouTube?
Just MC Electrical.
MC Electrical.
Yeah, the brand. Yeah.
Okay, great. No worries. So if anyone's looking to sort of buy solar and have a look at different products, that's sort of, I don't know, would you say that's your wheelhouse? Like you have a look at products and
Yeah, so that's what I've always tried to do on the blog, and then the same on YouTube is not just it's not just chat format like this or anything like that. I test products because I want to know which product I bring in. How do I end up settling with Fronius and Tesla and BYD, for example?
By the way, that's not a green screen. We actually do have a Fronius inverter here, BYD battery, and a Tesla. Yeah, okay.
It's just a lot of testing, and then crash testing other products and seeing, well, can I get the same thing for less money by buying, I don't know, a Sungrow or a Goodwee or something like that?
Yep.
And the short answer is you can't. Not to be undiplomatic about it, but that's just how it is.
So you've got, I suppose you've got the runs on the board here. So you've actually, well, for starters, you've got long-standing relationships with some of these companies, and then you've tested them along the way, and you've found the good and bad in certain products, haven't you? I mean, and I think what I think Mark's great at is calling it out too. When you see something that either is not quite right, or it's maybe not what the company's marketing team would want you to see, but you're happy to sort of call it out and say, there's an issue here that you need to know about if you're going to be a consumer, and I think it's important. And you've sort of done that. You've been happy to do that.
It's that psychopath in me that doesn't care what people think. People think I'm a little bit too over the top, but like I'll sit down here and interview someone.
Yep.
And then test a product, and Zappy, I may as well say it because it's all over my tube,
Yeah, you've just done a Zappy.
Yeah, that was a recent one. Yeah.
So that's for people who don't know, that's the charger, the car EV charger.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So interesting. No, that was we've been talking about this today. I haven't watched the review yet. I intend to do it.
Yeah.
No, but it'll be. I'm looking forward to seeing it, and hopefully something sort of good comes out of it as well. Like maybe it might mean they will change their product, or I don't know what it's going to be.
It does, and it is really cool, really satisfying sometimes. Like the feedback Huawei took. For example,
remember you telling me about this. This is amazing. Let's tell that story quickly. So you did a review on a Huawei inverter, is that right?
Yeah.
Yep. And it was less than. Well, it wasn't that positive, is that right?
Yeah,
at the time?
I mean, I didn't tear it to shreds.
Yep.
Just before I'd done a Solar Edge review, I tore them to shreds.
Yep.
And the legal threats and all that kind of stuff. But Huawei came in and they decided to take a different approach. Instead of legally threatening me, they invited me to go to China and Shenzhen and check out their factory and stuff like that. And sat down and took my feedback, and it was just such a better, more positive way of dealing with the problem, So
that's amazing. Like, and it's great for you to sort of get enough traction where they're willing to sort of reach out to you and say, we enjoy what you're telling us. May not be exactly what we want to hear, but we're happy to take that feedback on board.
Yeah.
That's great, because you see so many reviews where people are just saying, oh, this product's great. We sell this many in Germany, or whatever they say. I don't even know what the sales pitch is now because I turn off to it. I'm immune to those type of sales pitches, I suppose. I'd much rather see something like what you're doing.
Yeah. YouTube's an interesting place for that, isn't it? So you can see all sorts of different product reviews that are... It was just brutally honest, this is a product and this is what I think about it. So,
Who you got next in the firing line? You got you're not sure? Or
Get
a few ready?
Or EVNex or whatever. I call it EVNex. So the other charger. So we stopped using Zappy and I'm testing EVNex. I think I showed you we've just set up a heat chamber down there to heat test EV chargers, because I found that's the biggest problem in not too much temperature, 27, 30 degrees. They start derating. So I've set up a better way to heat test the EVNex EV charger, the New Zealand mob.
Yeah.
So I've already met with them recently. Really good mob. I really like their product.
Yep.
But hopefully this review turns out a bit better. So,
yeah, hopefully. I couldn't believe when you sort of mentioned that. Once you sort of so did you say once it gets over 27 we start the derating? Is that what you said?
Yeah. 27's not that hot, right?
No, it's not. I was saying to you, how many days in Brisbane get over 27? And it's got to be 300 maybe?
It's like half of the winter days or something? No, I don't know. So yeah.
It's only a few months of the year where it wouldn't get that warm.
Yeah.
And even in Melbourne, that would be a problem. So pretty much most days in summer are over 27 degrees.
And it doesn't derate much there, but as soon as you get above the 30 degrees...
Yeah, well, we get plenty of over 30 degree days in Melbourne.
Yeah, I know. And it's like they're from England. It doesn't get hot there. I'm like, really? I've been to England. It gets hot there too.
It definitely gets hot there. Just not as often. It definitely gets hot there.
So, it didn't make a... Yeah, and so a little bit of derating So that's a protection within the charger. And what I've found out and what I'm understanding is a lot of chargers are doing this. And they're protecting themselves. It's not derating because of inherently it derates. They protect it so you don't burn out the electronics built into it, right?
Right.
So it's an algorithm that they have. So this was derating. It's a 22 kilowatt charger. It was derating. I was running it at 11 kilowatts because, the car is a charger. My car would only charge at 11 kilowatts.
Yep.
And it was derating down to 4.5 kilowatts on around a low 30 degree temperature,
Really?
I'm like, man,
that's
an issue.
That's a huge problem.
Yeah. One of the most popular chargers in the market. I mean,
Are they really? I must say, I'm not that over EV charging and everything. I hear their name flashing around a fair bit. So they've got a big chunk of the market.
They were like first movers sort of thing. And for solar surplus charging, I mean, so you can charge off your excess solar. They do that really well, and they've got a lot of features and bells and whistles, but a little bit disappointing because we had installed some ourselves,
Yeah.
And not that it derates so much. It's just what sort of build quality do you have there when stuff like that happens, So,
yeah, that's right. It seems to be a bit of an issue. Well, I mean, look, hopefully they take on your feedback, and they've
been great, by the way. They have, and this has been going for over 6 months.
Yep.
In fact, probably a year. So yeah, they're good at taking feedback. They just haven't solved this problem yet. So
okay. Oh well, that's good. That's good. Hopefully there's a good outcome.
I think there will be. I just don't think it'll be next week. So
I mean, these things take a while to turn around. These wheels to it can be difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, great. Well, all right. What we might do is go to the first word from our sponsors. And when we come back, let's have a little bit more of a chat about the operation you've got here at MC Electrical. And I'm interested to talk a little bit more about some of those reviews, some other ones you've done. And I think it'd be also great to have a little bit of a chat about the differences in Victorian installations and Queensland installations, and just so everyone has got a bit of an idea how different.
One of both of our favourite topics, I think, that one. So that'll be good.
Most definitely. Yeah. All right, so now it'll be a word from our sponsors. Okay, and we're back from the word from our sponsors. Thanks very much to the sponsors for everything you do for Radio Caram. It's much appreciated. So, Mark, what we'll do next, just before we start talking about your business and the other things we're going to mention in this next segment, I actually had a roving mic that I walked around with this morning at the conference, and also did a quick little interview having drinks at the Pig and Whistle.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, just a quick little one just to see everyone's thoughts. So we might just cut to that now, and we'll come back in a sec. So we're sitting here having a beer at the Pig and Whistle Hotel. Just had a big day of conferencing at the Solar and Storage Show up in Brisbane. So I'm sitting here with a fellow podcaster, Luke Beattie. How you going there, Luke?
I'm good, mate. I feel very privileged to be with one of the top podcasters in the industry. Thanks, Pat.
No, thanks for that. I'm probably third top at the moment. Actually, I don't know how many are there. There's a few of us around, isn't there? Anyway,
everyone's got a podcast these days.
Yeah, that's right. I've just joined the show. So we've also got Sophie Wright here as well from Electrify Victoria. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm enjoying the Brisbane weather at the moment. Great place for a conference.
Yeah, it's pretty nice up here. We're sitting up here. It's getting on to 5 o'clock, and it's still about 22 degrees, something like that. Yeah, it's quite nice actually. So anyone listening in Melbourne, it's probably freezing at the moment.
15 degrees.
15 degrees, yeah. I think that's about right. And we're also sitting here with Adele from My Energy. All right. You want to say g'day, Adele?
Hello.
All right. Well, we're just all sitting around having a beer and having a bit of a chat about the show. I might start with you, Luke. How have you found the show so far? It's the first time we've had this show on the calendar, actually. It's the first time it's been run in Australia. How do you think it scrubs up so far, first day?
I think it was good. There was more foot traffic than what I expected, but I've never had a show that's had so much marketing attached to it. So I've been receiving emails most days, text messages, phone calls, and clearly there's a huge budget to build this show. But I'd say that, the foot traffic was good. It's a decent size, and speaking to some of the exhibitors, they seem to get some value out of it, which is good. But I will note that some of the manufacturers who do have a stand here didn't really send their number one team, so it's the reserves team. I know that some of the manufacturers are over in Perth for SIA conference at the moment, but overall it was a good vibe. Everyone's pretty buzzy, and as with all trade shows, it's just cool to catch up with old friends, people you collaborate with, competitors, and just have a good chat about what's going on in the industry.
Yeah, no, that's good. I found that too. It's been a similar size to the Smart Energy Conference in Sydney. But yeah, again, it's been a pretty good vibe around. Everyone's been in a pretty good mood. What have you thought? So have you got any thoughts on the show so far?
Smart Energy has been my favourite conference to date because of the size of it. I find All Energy is a little bit too intense and too much to get through, so I love Smart Energy, and I think that this conference in Brisbane is a good size as well. Similar size in terms of the expo to Smart Energy, so you can get around, you can have a chat to everyone, which is really nice. The panel sections and presentations in those areas have been really interesting. There's a whole different vibe with the headsets.
Sure is.
It's quite weird. Yeah, so you put a headset on and you can actually hear what each presenter is talking about.
Yeah.
Just on that note, though, I went to see Warwick Johnston from Sunwiz, and there were no headsets left. So they're kind of like the silent disco ones with the colour ones, and I couldn't find a pair of headsets. So, I couldn't hear him, no. So I could see him gesturing towards the screen and everything else. And I said that to him before. I went in there for a while, and I thought, well, I'm not going to get value, so I kept going.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I think it's good from the point of view that you can hear what everyone is saying in a panel environment. That's really important sometimes because you can't always do that. I was sitting there with a couple of others, including Adele and Lee here and Micah from Open Solar, and it was the first experience that we had with those headsets, and we all kind of felt like we were in, I don't know, one of those kind of weird kind of time warps with, I don't know, silent discos or something like that. And so while it's an interactive and you're there in person at an event, you kind of feel a little bit isolated. So it's good in one way, but in another way I found it really weird.
I found the roving mic was really difficult because it was actually the presenters who were all in the panel session that I was on. We decided all to not wear the headsets because we could hear each other. But then when they threw to the crowd for a question, we couldn't hear them. So
makes sense. And Sophie was in the corner doing the Macarena. She was on the wrong channel. So
quite possible. Yeah, that's quite possible, Luke. I don't know where I was, but yeah, it was a different experience, that's for sure.
Yeah, no worries. Adele, you got any thoughts about the show so far? No, not really. Okay.
What about Lee?
What about you, Lee? You got? No, nothing further to add. All right. Well, that's good. So, what are we expecting tomorrow? Much of the same. I reckon it's going to die off a bit tomorrow. What do you reckon?
Some of the feedback I've got is that people will come for the first day today, and it's the same old story with trade shows. There needs to be a compelling case for people to take the day off work, not jump on roofs, not sell systems. So I think a lot of the people came down today. Those who couldn't make it today will go, but I think it'll be quieter. But let's see.
Yeah, no, I agree. Although I think a lot of people are saying All Energy should be longer because it's so hard to cram everything in. But yeah, I think a show like this, might die off on the second day. But we'll see how it goes. So far, I think it's been a pretty good start. And looks like it'll probably be on the calendar for next year at this stage. A little bit hard to tell. We'll see what comes of it. But I think that's just about it for this chat, isn't it? What do you reckon, everyone? All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pat.
So I'm doing a bit of a walk around the conference in Brisbane here. Got a couple of celebrities of the solar industry. Got Israel Vogel.
G'day, Pat. Good to see you.
No worries. Great to see you too. And the one and only Nigel Morris. How you going, Nigel?
Good, Pat. How are you?
I'm going great, thanks. I'm going good. We'll start with you, Israel. What do you think of the show so far? Been getting a bit of feedback that it's been similar size to Smart Energy. How have you been finding it?
Mate, I'm really happy. It's actually met my expectations, and I'm particularly happy because it's in my hometown. So I love seeing all my solar friends descend on Brisbane, Vegas in the sunny Queensland here.
Yeah, I'm always seeing you in Sydney or Melbourne. It's good to see you in your hometown. So, and you're speaking in about half an hour or so, aren't you? Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I am, yep. just discussing the sales professionalism of our industry and how we want to level up.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great. All right. So, Nigel, what about you, mate? You flew up here yesterday, did you?
No, day before actually. Had some fun, went out and did some visits and talked about the launch of a new integration that we've done at this show with a couple of partners, and just been kicking around the hall since then.
Yeah, right. How do you find the vibe of the place? Like, obviously a little bit small at All Energy, but looks like it's got a pretty good place in the industry at the moment. What do you reckon?
Yeah, to be honest, I think like everyone, it was a bit of an unknown quantity this show because it's a sort of new one. Numbers yesterday were really, really good. Quality of the visitors was pretty good. Today's a bit quieter, which is pretty typical of most shows, but as a little expo, we needed one in Brisbane, right? That really was like a trade show kind of thing, and I think it's good.
Yeah, that's good. Made your way to any sessions?
No, just, dancing around the halls as usual.
Yeah, no, that's good. What about you? Zero, been many sessions yet?
No, but I'm going to convene one shortly, and I'd also like to take the opportunity to give a bit of feedback to Solar and Storage Live. We've scratched their back a little bit. It's been nice. They've done a really good job. It looks nice. And I think where maybe it's a bit more location specific, we always talk about the food and the coffee in Melbourne, so maybe we could just have a bit of a research exercise there and see if we could up the opportunities with good coffee here at the Solar and Storage Live.
And water. There's no water anywhere. You've got to buy water. All Energy have got onto that, and all the other big shows. There's water fountains where you can fill your water bottles up.
There is. You said you were dancing around the halls. Well, maybe you should do a little less dancing and a bit more looking. If you go out into the foyer alongside the hall, there is actually water fountains out there you can refill your water bottle.
Outside the hall. There you go.
Well, there's a DJ at the front. That's a bit different, isn't it?
It's just been going non-stop too, all day.
Yeah, I noticed that yesterday. So it is a bit of a different vibe. Like you can tell they have put some money into it. Yeah, you're right. It would be good to get those things right, like the water fountains. I think we've got one toilet, but it's not a huge event anyway. But that's good. Any feedback at all on the silent disco style sessions? Have you seen that yet?
Oh, it looks very sharp, actually. So I'm about to test it out. I'll have feedback for you afterwards, but I gave it a quick tester before speaking, and I think it's going to be cool. Everybody gets to hear clearly. You know what it's like when you're in the back, and also we've got multiple sessions going on here right next door to each other. So imagine that bleed over of audio.
You wear headphones? Yeah. Is that what's going on?
Yeah, that's right.
Way.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, that's right. You wear headphones, and everyone does. So, and there's no audio that you can hear from the microphones. So they're just talking normally, and it's just coming through the headsets.
That's cool.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. Yeah.
I'm going to give away some lollies if anybody gets up and dances, so we can see it.
Well, I've been practicing dancing, so I'll come.
Let's make it a real solid disco.
All right. Well, just before we sign off, guys. So Israel, are you a superhero or are you a sidekick in the solar industry?
Oh, mate, I definitely consider myself a sidekick. I'm a real supporter, is the way that I like to see it. That's why I'm currently in an employed role. I'm supporting, those who are really the forefront of industry and forwarding it. So I like to support, yeah. I'll call myself a sidekick.
Okay, that's well answered. What about you, Nigel? I think I know the answer to this, but let's see how humble you are.
Definitely a sidekick. The best part about all the years in this industry is I observe, I learn from other people, I watch what other people are doing, listen to what they want in terms of products, listen to what they want in terms of how they're being looked after, so definitely an observer.
Very good. All right, thanks for that, guys. All right, so that was everyone's word from the conference. So had a chat to a few people there. You put a camera in front of Nigel Morris, and he's always going to talk for a little bit. So it was really great talking to him. Did you get to catch up with Nigel at all this conference? Did you see him?
Only briefly, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good.
So things happening there, aren't there? But it'll be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Solar Analytics.
Solar Analytics, yeah, there seems to be. I can never keep up with what's going on there. They're always releasing a product, or they're doing some launch or some integration with some other. Device, so I can never keep up, but yeah, always interesting, and he's interesting fella to speak to. All right, so let's talk a little bit about MC Electrical. First thing I want to ask you about is you don't have solar anywhere in your name, but you pretty much do just solar. Is that right?
Yep.
Have you thought about this? Like, you got it on your shirt there. Yeah, of course you would have thought about it. You've got We Know Solar on your shirt, and you get solar panels everywhere and everything. But so the first thing that comes to my mind would be, do you ever find an identity problem or anything like that? Like, do people ever think, oh, is this the guy who does all those reviews and knows about solar? Do you ever...
So our actual ABN is, or ACN is MC Solar and Electrical.
Okay.
And then we trade as MC Electrical. And I deliberately did that because it's a long name. But I didn't want to be like, it was probably a knee-jerk reaction to all the dodgy sales companies that were Solar Sunshine or whatever it was, So Euro Solar, for example, So,
True Value Solar.
True Value Solar, exactly, So and it was like, well, we're not a solar sales company, like everyone was. We're an electrical company, so let's just say MC Electrical. And then I came up with a We Know Solar tagline so that you can see it on a sign or something like that, So
perfect. So for me, I feel like now, the way it's sort of worked out for you, you've positioned yourself in the market beautifully, because what happens is everyone does know who you are and what you and your team do and what you're capable of. I feel like you've got a really good presence in the industry, a lot of respect as well. But you've done it without that solar the solar name in your... Yeah, so for me, you're an electrical contractor, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so you're an electrical contractor first, I suppose, and that's where, for me, that gives you a lot of credibility. Yeah, and that's how I see it anyway. Like I feel like you're not just running a sales team; you're running teams of electricians as well.
Yes,
and for me, there's a lot of credibility in that. Do you sort of see that as well?
That's exactly the message we're trying to get across.
Well, it's certainly come across. It's certainly come across that way.
Do you know what's funny though? Is everyone like down at trade shows or whatever? People in the industry call me MC Solar all the time.
MC Solar.
I've got new staff here, and they'll answer the phone. It's MC Solar. I'm like, when there's no MC Solar, there's no such thing, So, but I've started thinking that maybe I should change my name to MC Solar.
Maybe
get that as a business name too. So
You might want to trademark that, or someone's going to jump in on that.
We have actually.
Oh, you've done
it.
That's good. No, that's good. Yeah, because you know what the solar industry is like. There'll be some unscrupulous person thinking about there's all rebates to be done here. Oh, what's a good name? Oh, MC Solar. We can say we're like this guy, but not really.
Try and get we've had a few of those around, and we've had to send letters to. Yes.
Have you really? There you go.
Yeah, so.
Quite interesting. Quite interesting. All right. So your team, what sort of rough numbers you got? Teams of how many teams you got roughly at the moment?
So we're running four installed teams. That's us being relatively quiet, I guess. We should be sort of running 5, I think. But
mainly Brisbane. So you mainly look in Brisbane metropolitan area.
Yeah, we mainly focus on 50Ks. The 50K
from here
radius. Yep. And then if a past customer has got a job on the Sunshine Coast or Gold Coast or whatever, or if someone calls in, we'll do that, or Toowoomba as well.
Yep.
But it's sort of the 50K radius,
Yeah, right. And you don't head below the border. You don't go down to do you guys call it? No, is it Mexico? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
we Mexico down in Victoria?
Yeah, you're all Mexicans.
We're all Mexicans.
We've done a couple of jobs across there, but we've got problems with metering down there, right?
So they get because they've got level 2s that they need to organise.
They've got rules down there,
not many. No, New South Wales, not many.
Okay. Oh, more than us.
Not many. Yeah. Well, that's. Well, I think everyone's got their own intricacies with the rules.
Sure. Yeah.
Some states are better than others. And then you've got sales team and also admin staff.
Yep. Yeah.
And you're running. I noticed you've got the sort of 2 premises here, sort of thing. You've got a warehouse as well.
So we've been in this office for 10, 12 years or something like that. And obviously outgrew the warehouse, so we ended up buying one doing the back corner, which was handy.
Yeah.
Not right next door, but it's just 100 metres down there, So
sure. So one question I got for you is you're doing a lot of installations then, and how do you keep on top of your QA, your quality control? Like what's one of I'm just interested to how you try and control that, because for me that's a difficult thing to control, which would take a fair bit of thought.
Yeah. Install quality control.
Install quality control. Yeah, that's right.
Like the biggest thing I think that we find helpful now, in the past, we'd go out to jobs and inspect them, and stuff like that. Or whenever we have to go back to one of our jobs that there's been an issue with, or a Wi-Fi reconnect, we'll get our Sparkies jumping up and giving feedback.
Yep.
It's nice to see that. That's always really high quality. I could tell you one story about an inspection we had in a second, but But Toolbox Talks is, I think, the biggest thing.
So first up in the morning, where everyone comes in and meets at the factory?
No, last up on a Friday. So,
last on a Friday, there you go.
Yeah,
Good one.
So the guys love it. So we just do an easy job every second Friday.
Yep.
Guys will come back here, clean out their van, and
nice.
Toolbox talk, have a few snags and a few beers and a game of pool. But it's that good solid hour of sitting down and any issues that they've got if the teams are doing things differently, if someone's found a good idea of how to do it, safety issues, working at heights and all that kind of thing. So.
That's interesting. All of the companies I've spoken to who seem to be doing a good job have got a similar type of culture. So like I say, I've had similar thoughts. Similar feedback when I've asked this question from Total Solar Solutions down in Melbourne, and also Jake Warner at Penrith Solar Centre. He's got a similar sort of thing. I can't remember what he does. I think might be barbecue breakfast every Friday or something along those lines. And they all just love it.
Yeah.
And they all sort of spend a bit of social time together as well. And I think at Reece and Christine's factory, they've got a basketball ring and that sort of stuff. So there's a bit more camaraderie between the teams. So do you have that as well, camaraderie between your teams?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. We don't really keep strict teams that much as well. So we mix them around.
Interchange them a bit?
Yeah. So, they're a really good bunch of guys we've got. Like we'll go out for Christmas party and the wait staff will go, I can't believe how polite your guys are for a bunch of tradies, So,
really?
it's a really solid team.
Yep.
I think the other bigger thing then, or another massive part of quality control is that we're run by Sparkies, right? So any question goes back to Ryan, who's a really good Sparky. Shane, our service manager, is a really good Sparky.
Yep.
He did his apprenticeship with us and a bit of time on the tools, and then came into the office. So when they're calling the office to have a complaint or whatever it is to talk about an issue, we understand it. We've all been there. We've all installed solar.
Yep.
We all have our different strengths. Sometimes they'll call me about stringing or shading or something like that because I've spent countless hours on that. Ryan's better at batteries, and so I think that having the leadership knowing what they're doing, so that the going back to the complete opposite of a sales company, So that's good. So
that's good to know that the technical people are the ones sort of calling the shots. Is that happening? Is that sort of how it works? Like it's not just your sales team are not the ones trying to make you, install panels too close to the edge or whatever it's going to be, or
and we write extensive manuals for our sales guys too, and they're all very technical people. One of our sales guys is a Sparky. He did his apprenticeship with us.
Yep.
Nicole's been in the industry as long as I have, and she's an absolute solar nerd.
Yep.
Yorick is a bit of a genius as well.
Yeah.
So we've got
I met Yorick last year. Yeah, he's quite smart. I met him at All Energy.
Yeah. So all our sales team are really high on the technical aspect, potentially to a fault in the fact that
you reckon
that we're not salespeople, and sometimes I kind of have to say to them, it's okay to sell as well, it's okay to want to sell, but they just hate that idea of sales, they don't want to be called a salesman and stuff like that. But it is really strong technically. That then goes through the wicket keeper. We do all the checking of what they've done. We go and measure up before an install.
Yep.
About 90% of our jobs. So,
Yeah, okay. So you don't have anyone else looking over your job. You might get a CER audit every now and then. Is that it? What else? Where else who else looks at your jobs?
Yeah.
You've got your team who, you might do your own QA or whatever it's going to be. Who externally looks at your jobs?
Basically we hardly ever get a inspection from CER.
ESO, do they ever inspect?
Yes. Yeah, so no, but yes. So there's that funny story I was alluding to. I think I told you a little bit about it before, is with that Solar Edge story. Can I bring this up?
Yeah, I'll go for it.
Yeah, okay.
Open Southern, mate.
So it was ages ago. I can't remember, 2017 or something like that, 2019. I don't know. I wrote a negative review about Solar Edge after we'd installed 130 Solar Edge systems.
Yep.
I wrote a blog, and they took me to Israel before I published it and tried to convince me not to publish it, and came back, and I'm like, no, they can't convince me. I hate this product. It's really dumb,
Yep.
and it fails like nothing else, So I wrote a negative review about it, and then I got all these legal letters, Christmas Eve, the day before Good Friday, like just to stress me out, the typical, bullying tactics. saga went on for a while. I told the story a little bit in the industry.
Yep.
But I didn't tell. I've never told this part about it because I guess I got over it.
Yeah.
But you reminded me when we were talking about it recently. It was over COVID, so maybe 2 or 3 years ago. That's right. Because I was doing a YouTube and I was talking about Enphase and Tigo, and I said the next one's going to be about Solar Edge. So all of a sudden, I get a call from Solar Edge saying we're going to inspect your systems because the reason they're failing is you guys have got no idea what you're doing with them.
So hang on, let me say. So you're saying you're going to do a review on their product. You've sort of announced it. Is that right?
And I just announced it on YouTube.
Yep.
So
and then you get a call saying that they're going to inspect your jobs. Is that right?
Yeah, because we've got such a high failure rate, and we're the only ones in Australia that has got such a high failure rate. No
the MC electrical ones, is that what they're saying?
Yeah. So that's what everyone hears, by the way. So,
yeah.
So it must be to do with our install quality. So I was surprised at this. They told me where they were going, the half dozen jobs they were going around to. Yep. I said, okay, no worries, I'll follow you. I'll meet you there. So took the day off. I followed them around, inspecting the jobs.
Who'd they get to do it? Do they have their own Sparkies? Internal?
Yep.
What's are they Sparkies? Or what? Yep. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yeah. Interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. Right.
And so, going up, and I was surprised. These jobs were done like in 2015 or 2017, right? Yep. Which was a fair while ago. And I thought, as an inspector yourself, you can jump up on any job and inspect and find something wrong, right?
Oh, easily. So, I could find a job. Yeah, I could easily. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
And I don't think our quality was anywhere near it is today. Back in 2015,
Yeah.
But they went out in all these jobs, and I was there with them. There was very little. There was like inverter clearance. We were 120 mil, not 150 mil as per their install manual or something like that.
Yeah.
And there might have been a couple of loose-ish cables that weren't totally fastened.
Array cabling or something like that, was it?
Yeah.
I think I remember talking about this.
But yeah, then they went out and bought a torque wrench to check the tightness of the mid clamps that were 5 years old that had seized up to see whether they torqued it up. Bunch of turkeys. Then they try to fault me with the CEC. I think you were there at the time, right?
Yeah, is it something to do with the tie wire of the...
Yeah. So when we started having to do tie wire, stainless steel ties, I didn't like the sharp edge. Yep. So I used tie wire.
Yep.
Stainless steel tie wire, and my guys would do that. And some of them loved it. Some of them, well, I think at that stage they all loved it. They all thought it was a good idea.
Yep.
A new guy would come along and wonder what the heck we were doing. But that's why I decided to do it, for better or worse,
Yep.
They try to tell the CEC to fault me on it because you can't use stainless steel tie wire. I'm like, well, tell me where in the standards it says it has to be a zip tie,
Yeah.
So,
it doesn't. It doesn't. I remember talking. It doesn't say that.
Yeah.
It's like, from my point of view, it was if you have. I still think this to this day. If it's fit for purpose, it's okay. So it specifically says no PVC cable ties that to be used as a primary means to fix the cable in position.
Yeah.
It's something along words to that effect. So if you're using something else, like there's so many different things on the market. You might have a cable clip or a stainless steel cable tie. There's lots of different methods of doing it, and the way you were doing it is just another method.
Yeah. And so that was exactly what the CEC said. We're not faulting this guy. There's nothing wrong with his work,
Yep.
So then they went to the ESO, which is the Electrical Safety Office in Queensland, our regulator, who don't have a lot to do with solar here. And they brought the same case. Like, it was a 130-page report that they sent to you guys and to the ESO. I need to get this under Freedom of Information and publish it one day. It'd be pretty funny,
Yeah, right.
And this is the company that I used to buy product off, right?
Yeah. And you did how many 120 systems?
130. Yeah.
130 systems.
Yeah. And because I didn't do a good review, and so they then went around and went to the Electrical Safety Office, who picked it up, and one of their inspectors went out to my job. And again, the inspector didn't find anything wrong with the job, but this tie wire issue.
Yeah.
And he faulted me on it. And I'm like, oh, far out. Okay. And what happens then is, like, I'm thinking, well, okay, what about the last 3,000 jobs? What I'm going to have to do? Okay, I understand this, how the game works. I'll go and replace it with stainless steel tie wire, cable ties, and we'll move on. And then the second one came, and the third one came, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm going to fight it. And my friends in the ESO were just like, you don't fight it, you never win these things, you know.
Yep.
And I did, and it took a long time. And I went to the cable manufacturer, went through all the standards. You know, how you have to jump between standards. It took a long time. Wrote a real long thing, and in short, they overturned the decision and said I was.
So
right.
it was the ESO that overturned the decision. Is that right? Did they?
Yeah. So they faulted me on it, and then
they withdrew the defect.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah.
There you go.
So it was pretty fun. So Solar Edge till today thinks they won that battle. I mean, they put me through a lot of pain for no reason. That's the thing. So yeah.
They probably did to some extent because you had to go through it all.
Yeah. But what sort of company? I mean, even if their product is any better, which it is, I'm sure it's not. What sort of company does that? So,
I know it's we all need to be kind to each other, is what I think.
yeah.
No, I agree. Yeah. Any other reviews you've done? What other ones have you done? So you've done the Huawei, the Solar Edge, the Zappy. They're the main ones you're sort of known for, I think. Although you've got a whole channel, haven't you?
Yeah. I've done heaps of different inverters over the time.
Yeah. What about your Fronius versus? Did you do a Fronius versus Enphase? Did some stuff with Jake Warner on that? Is that right?
Yeah, I did a debate with him, but beforehand, I'd tested this shading idea of. Is Enphase better than Fronius in the shade? And was kind of really surprised of the massive weak points that Enphase have in the shade.
Yep.
And it's sort of pros and cons and swings and roundabouts. And this is true of Fronius or SMA, not other inverters, because they've got a really good algorithm in them to deal with shade. SMA call it shade fix, and it's not just a branding thing. It's real smarts that for some reason the Chinese can't copy. Huawei and SunGrow and stuff don't have this algorithm, so they don't deal with shade as good as Enphase does, right?
Yep.
So Enphase is superior than SunGrow, but Enphase is not superior to Fronius or SMA in the shade, which was a really interesting study. So I've got a ladder that goes up to my roof here, and I've got to just do all my testing here. It's really quite convenient.
Yep.
And throwing shade over it all the time, and it was a pretty interesting study, that one. So,
yeah, right. Interesting. So a conclusion came out of that? Did you get a conclusion out of that?
Conclusion is absolutely that if you show me any roof and you say is Fronius, with the shade, and I could analyze it as much as I want, which one's going to work better, Fronius or Enphase? Most of the times I wouldn't know. I wouldn't tell you, and the difference might be 1 or 2%. Maybe Fronius wins 1%, maybe Enphase wins 1%. So
bit of a dead heat.
So, yeah. So it's that's not where the debate should be. And so then I had a crack at Enphase, and I believe they took all the marketing down because I was doing this in collaboration with Enphase, right?
Yeah, right.
We've installed.
You do a lot of Enphase, don't you?
Not anymore.
You did, didn't you?
I just at that point didn't see the need for it.
Yeah, right.
It's not a bad product. Don't get me wrong, right?
No.
And so me and Jake get on still, So, yeah. So it's just a different philosophical approach, I guess. Why would you have power electronics on the roof that are going to fail one at a time? Is basically my main argument.
Yeah, which his main argument is why would you have dangerous DC cables running through your roof?
Yes, exactly.
And you can debate that.
And it is a fair argument.
Yeah,
so
it is. You can debate. Yeah,
I'm right, but so at the end of the day. So, yeah.
Well, when I spoke to Jake about this, when I went up to see him last year, I mentioned that review you had, or that podcast you did, or the video, and he said that because I think you did a promo with some boxing gloves or something like that.
Yeah.
And he was saying that you're still bearing the scars back then, and that was about a month afterwards. So.
Yeah, it could be true. It may or may not be true. So,
all right. Well, we're going to cut to our next ad break, and when we wrap up, we'll just talk a little bit more about some of the reviews and just what the future holds for the solar industry. So it'll be another word from our sponsors. Okay, and we're back from our break. Thanks again to the sponsors. So, Mark, we just had a little break there, and you've given me a nice can of Solar to keep us going, so thanks for that. So, I wanted to mention the differences in Victoria and Queensland with installing solar and the different landscapes that we find ourselves in. So, we have mandatory inspections in Victoria, so you know about that. You hear me, I'm banging on about that all the time, whether it's at conferences, on the socials, whatever. It's just one of the things that I find puts Victoria ahead of the rest as far as installation quality goes. So you guys don't get inspected at all.
So we get the CR inspections.
Yeah, so it's 5%, isn't it? I think it's between 1 and 5%, maybe something like that.
I reckon it might be 1.1%. Yeah, if that's the case, then. So
do you get many? Do you get many?
No, no, hardly.
Are there any?
And I can't remember the last one, because it goes to the guys normally, and then we go and rectify the ridiculous little issue that it is, or something like that.
Yep.
Or argue with them and saying,
yeah,
whatever it is. But it's just so. I can't even remember the last one we got, seeing the last one in, so years ago. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. See, I think I got a couple of issues with the way it works in Queensland. So, first of all, you don't have the inspector going to look at it after the job, so you've only got the set of eyes on it, the people who have installed it, and you may have your own QA process, and you might incorporate a post inspection. Some companies, I'm sure, would. Obviously, Victoria have someone like me, a licensed electrical inspector, go and check it after it's been installed, and that's part of the deal. It has to be signed off to be done. So one of the things that we as LEIs can really help the installers with is QA as well. So we see things that aren't quite right. We may not defect it, but we might say, hey, maybe think about doing this a different way. Have you thought about this? And it's almost free Q. Well, it's not free because we're charging for the service. But it's a QA. It's another layer of protection.
Yep.
And I find that none of my installers or none of my contractors get demerit points from the CER because I'm checking the job and I'm making sure it's right.
Yeah, sure.
So there's a layer of protection there. How do you think that would fly in Queensland, a system like that? What do you think? Do you reckon they'd swallow it at the moment, the installers up here?
I reckon half of them would be out of business.
You reckon? Is that bad, do you?
I don't know. It's hard to tell. Certainly when we go back to older systems, when I talk saying older, so some dodgy company put it in 3 years ago, and that's an old system. It's failed, so we're replacing it.
3 years isn't very long, is it? Three years. It's
it might not be. Like I might be exaggerating a bit there.
Yeah, fair enough.
But systems like that, you're just thinking, what were these turkeys on?
Yeah.
We don't make it our job to go around and inspect other people's systems, but But you do.
But this is all. But I suppose this is all that the end user has got. So they're going to be calling up people like you because they don't. A lot of the time, either the company's either gone bust, right, and they're not there to support their product that they've installed, or they're going to just be ignoring the calls and saying, "Well, we've done the install.
Yeah.
What's your problem?" Sort of thing. Is that? Do you reckon that's right? Do you reckon that's a fair assumption?
Yeah. What do you mean? Sorry.
Well, I suppose that they're going to be calling you up. Like for in Victoria, you got that layer of protection where the inspector has to check it, right?
Yeah.
Make sure it's right. A lot of the time, if things are going to go wrong, or you're going to have a dodgy install in Queensland, you're not going to find out until things actually start going wrong, or there is a safety issue, and that's when they call you. That's sort of what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. No, that's where we do. I had a call actually just last week. Funnily enough, that customer called up and said, not one of our customers. He said, I'm getting an install done on Monday. I'm wondering if you guys can come and inspect it.
Right.
So you haven't even had the install done, and you're that nervous about this company that you're going with that you want us to inspect it. I don't get it.
Yeah.
But to be fair, that's I think that's how you're playing up here because people just don't get inspected. So like when I was fresh out, imagine just getting your contractor's license. You just become a Sparky. You think, oh, I'll get into the solar game. You go and do your solar ticket. You can literally not have done a handful of jobs for your points or whatever, and then run a business and then run around subbying and make you $800 a day or something like that, installing True Value or jobs or something. Not True Value anymore, but and you just make it up as you go along. And if you're buying the balance of system, all the screws and the saddles and the container wires and all that, you're not going to get the best stuff you can get, right? And just going to take shortcuts. So there's no catch for this kind of player. And what I feel like in Queensland, you're saying it's different. It solved this problem, but in Queensland, where you get those large subby model, where they're just subbying out the work to the cheapest, youngest bloke, that there's just really no quality control there at all. Which is quite frightening, I think.
Yeah, it is a little bit.
And I don't even think this. Maybe you being an inspector probably see it more from a safety point of view, but that's not I don't know what your problem with it is. I think my problem is that we're in a renewable industry. We're trying to do the right thing. We want these systems to last 20 or 25 years or longer, right?
Yep.
Not be ripping them off in 3 or 7 years.
For sure.
Because there's an earth fault on the panel, or something like that, and it blew up the inverter and,
It's certainly not usually the agenda I push, but I 100% see that point of view. Like, yeah, we want this industry to be sustainable as well.
Yeah.
And it's not good for the industry when we are pulling systems off the roof, which are 3-4 years old. Like, there's always, you'll see some article in a newspaper of, a landfill site of solar panels, when you see those sort of things, when they're not being recycled, that's not good for the industry.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah.
I totally see that. I suppose, where I come from is more of a safety issue. Maybe that's just been drilled into me because I am, a Mexican nanny stater or whatever, you call me. And it's important to us that things are done safely and correctly. And I think it's a better result for everyone. What
do you think though? Because there's two sides to this, and the reason I'm really strong about the longevity, because I think you can't argue that these systems don't last as long. We see that all the time.
Yeah.
But as far as safety goes, like my mate was living here for 7 years over from France, and he's just moved back to France with his family, and he's going to chuck on his own solar system.
Yeah.
He'll just call me up for a bit of advice on how to do it over the phone. Completely fine over there.
Yeah.
No regulations.
So I suppose this is my argument, and this is where I think the lack of appetite comes from places like New South Wales to not do inspections, because they don't have, as far as they're concerned, they don't have a problem. Now, I feel like the reason they don't have a problem is because they're not inspecting.
Yeah.
So, I mean, does it only just become a problem when people start dying? Or is it, I feel like we want to catch it much before that and raise the bar as much as we can.
Yeah.
So I do see the point that if it's not that bad, we sort of maybe should just let it go through a little bit. I kind of understand that point of view, but I tend to think that once you start dropping the ball on that sort of stuff and lowering the bar, that you're lowering the bar with everything, and then you are going to. I mean, even if you just allowed, let's say, for instance, you just allow, cables to, for instance, array cabling to just be, let loose on the roof. And if that wasn't in the standard and no one cared about it, right, I guarantee you, if that was the case, you would then get more unsafes in other areas, because the installer is just not really going to care. They're going to sort of drop the ball a bit.
Yeah.
So I find even on the slightest thing, lifting the bar on something which may seem trivial, it just changes the way an installer may think about doing the job.
Yeah, yeah.
And they might show a bit more due diligence in making sure it's safe, because they know it's going to be looked at.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that's good. Like, you lift the bar that it's almost unreachable.
Yeah.
And if you fall short of that, you're still safe and quality, right? So
that's a good point.
Yeah,
that's good. I must say, even the terrible installs in Victoria, the bar has been lifted.
Yeah, yeah, you're saying that. So it is different down there, that if you can get a subby company from some cheap TV company or whatever it is, and you'll get a decent install out of it.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've 100% seen it. And
I'm sure we do as well. It's just Russian roulette here, so. Yeah, so.
And I've heard it gets worse the further away you get from Brisbane and the Gold Coast. Do you reckon that's? Or you may not know, because you're
not an inspector. So
no. I've just heard that anecdotally about systems in Queensland.
Probably does.
The further away you get, the further west you go, the more wild it gets. It is really the Wild West. And up north as well, where there's just not as much population as there is in southeast corner. So it was interesting. We were talking in the session I was in yesterday. There was I can't remember her name. There's someone from Energy Queensland,
right,
who. I was talking about the mandatory inspections, and I could see it like shaking her head, going, "We need them, we need them, we need them."
Is that right?
Yeah. And I sort of pointed out to her in the crowd, and I said, "So, what's your issue with it?" And she sort of said, "Well, they get sent Energy Queensland." So those of you who don't know, Energy Queensland are the what are they called? Not the retailer, the supply. Utility. The supply authority. They're the utility. So much similar like to SP Ausnet or Powercore in Victoria. So Energy Queensland look after that. So they're looking after the grid, and they have sent back an installer who, well, this happens a lot, but they have sent back installers who have done something wrong, and there's a defect and there's an issue with the system, and it's affecting their grid or whatever it is. Oh, right. And so they send a defect notice to them, and the installer basically just laughs and says, "Oh, I don't care."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, what do you guys do about this?" And she said, "Well, we tell the ESO, we send it to them and have some action." I said, "Well, what do the ESO say?" And she said, they do nothing. They don't care. If it's not a safety issue, they're not interested.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. If it's not safety, yeah.
Yeah. What do you reckon about that? ESO just being a safety regulator, do you think they should maybe... I mean, ESV, they're in a similar position, right? They're pretty much the same type of organisation in different states, and they look after safety. But I feel like they look after a little bit more than that. They are interested in making sure that you are doing the right thing.
No, not at all. So I wish we had that. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of really good guys in the ESO, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think it's just the standard that we're supposed to meet, like the regulation that's in place is, as long as you put the MEN in, mate, she'll be fine, you know.
Just earth it, you'll be right.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, look, I've heard that because I don't spend that much time in Queensland. I try to, get around a little bit, and I'm interested in other states and what's happening. But I've heard that they're just quite reactive. So if there's an issue, a safety issue, they'll come down on the electrician like a ton of bricks.
Yep. And that's the way they see it. So I was saying to you before, so when I did my apprenticeship with SeekWeb or NG Queensland, basically, back in the day, and I'd go around with inspectors then, and there were inspectors. And then during my apprenticeship or just after it or something like that, this is the early 90s, they changed that, and they didn't call them inspectors anymore because the responsibility 100% goes on me, the electrical contractor. So if someone dies because one of my guys left an MEN out, and a tap goes live and they die from it, that's 100% my responsibility. So why should they get themselves in the way of that,
So do you reckon they did that as a protection? Oh, that's only an opinion, I suppose. Do you reckon that's a protection thing, then they can throw the book at one person and it's not them?
Why would they get in the way of liability? It makes sense to me, right? I don't know that we get a safer state out of it, but
See, I feel that's a huge difference in Victoria because you've got if someone does, if hopefully it doesn't happen, if someone does die or there's an issue on an installation, they can, potentially prosecute the electrician and the inspector. If they've missed something, and they're seen to be liable, I'm sure they could be prosecuted for that. So it's another layer of protection, and I suppose the inspector's going to make sure it's right. They're not going to be wanting to share a jail cell, with their electrician. So that's interesting. I thought that was an interesting exchange we had, and it would be good. I feel like it would be a good step forward for other states. There was discussion in the panel I was on about a national approach to inspection programs. Now, I don't see that happening anytime soon, just because we are all installing, even though we all install the same standard, pretty much the same systems, we're all working under separate licenses and separate licensing bodies, and we're all got different rules. So like you wouldn't be able to just walk down to... you wouldn't be able to just fly down to Melbourne and just start working. Although there may be something with the mutual recognition, I think, now, which is
we could do electrical contracting work, but we wouldn't know what we're doing. I think we could go down there.
Look, I'm not actually sure now. I think there was some rule change. You never used to be able to. It used to be really, really tough. I think maybe a few years ago. I'll have to. Maybe that's for another episode. Looking at what the changes are there, because I think you can. I think New South Wales and Victoria. I think you can work between.
We can go down to New South Wales anyway. I wouldn't go down to Victoria to work.
Yeah, what are you going to do down there? What are you going to do down there? Yeah. You wouldn't go surfing. The water's too cold.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Have you got a wetsuit warm enough for Bells Beach?
No way. No. Why would you wear a wetsuit? No, we do here. Yes.
You'd be wearing a wetsuit when the water's like 23, 24 degrees, probably. Wouldn't you?
Exactly. Yeah.
No, good stuff. All right. Well, I think we're sort of getting towards the end of our discussion, Mark. Do you have any sort of closing thoughts on anything you want to leave us with?
No, not really. Except if you're going to go on the push to or voice the idea of having mandatory inspections in Queensland, I'll be behind you.
Yeah, great.
So it would be great to see somehow. Some level of mandatory inspections in Queensland, I think, for solar.
Yeah,
lift the game, make the consumer a lot more confident that they can get a decent system. So
yeah, for sure, that'd be a major benefit for it. Yeah, definitely. All right, good stuff. Well, we're going to wrap up now. So thank you everyone for listening. Mark, thanks for hosting us up here. It's been a really good trip. I got to jump on a plane in a few hours.
Yeah.
It's been quite an interesting trip up to Brisbane and seeing the show. I finally got to come and see your operation that you've got here, and you got a nice little setup here as well to do all your media. So
yeah. you'll have to set one up in your new house, and I'll come down to your place next time, mate.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, well, hopefully, that's pushing along a little bit now. So I think the roof trusses are maybe going in today or tomorrow.
Yeah,
so
nice.
It's getting exciting. Going to have to make a decision about the solar we're going to install. So don't know. I don't know what we're going to do there, but we'll see what happens. But anyway,
Fronius, simple.
Fronius. All right, no worries. Okay, well. That brings us to the end of the episode. So thanks again, Mark, and all the people here at MC Electrical. And we'll hear from you next time on the next episode of Solar Sidekicks. Thank you.